Hi, this is JJ at CCBC. In this video, we'll look at how to transform an image using Photoshop. Major topics we'll cover are, well, transforming images. The software I'm using is Adobe Photoshop Creative Suite version 6 on a Mac. So let's take a look at this. So here I've set up an image to work with. My goal here is I have a detour sign. I have a signpost that I've added to the image. And then I have an old country road that I'm using as my background. So what I want to do is I want to take this signpost that I've created within my image and I want to transform this sign so it fits on the signpost. Now this is a little bit different than cropping or resizing an image. I want to transform part of the image. So I'm going to transform what's in this layer of my image without affecting the other layers. So it's sort of like resizing within an image, but it's called transformations. So let's look at how to do this. In order to enter what's called free transformation mode, which will allow us to make the changes we want to make, you have to use one of the selection tools. All you have to do is right click and say free transform. Now by default, the free transform mode allows you to scale and rotate. So as you can hopefully see, there's a bounding box with some anchors in the corner, and when I mouse over those anchors, my cursor changes. So the first thing you can do is scale the image. So if I click a corner and I drag, you notice it allows me to scale along the height and width of the image. Also notice it does allow you to distort the image if you scale too much along one or the other and not an equal amount on both. In order to fix that, if you hold down the Shift key, you'll notice it constrains the proportions. Just like when we were resizing the image, it keeps the aspect ratio of the height and the width the same, so when you make changes, it doesn't actually distort the image. So what I'm going to do is shrink this down to roughly the size I want my sign to be and let go. So now I've resized it. You can move whatever is being transformed just by clicking on it and repositioning it. So eventually I want this sign to appear on my signpost. It's still too big, but I wanted to scale it down, get it in position, and then apply the transformation, and then we'll do a little bit more in just a second when I can zoom in. So keep in mind I'm in what's called free transformation mode. I can't zoom right now. If I click the zoom tool, it asks me if I want to apply the transformation, just like the crop tool. We wanted to apply the cropped area. Yes, I do want to apply this. So I'm going to click apply. And now that part of the image has been permanently transformed. So now I can zoom in. So I'm just going to say zoom in, and I can view my signpost a little bit better. I'm going to scroll over, get a better view of it. And then I'm going to go back into free transform mode and do a little more fine tuning here. So I'm going to right click, go back into free transform mode. It gives me my anchors. I'm going to hold down Shift, and I can scale this a little bit better, try to get it about proportional to what I think a detour sign would look like on the side of a road, old country road. You can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard for fine-tuning your positioning if the mouse is a little touchy like mine seems to be. Make this a little bit bigger. That's probably good. Position it. Put it a little higher up on my... That's pretty good right there. Okay, so now I've resized it to the scale that I want it to be. Some other things you can do with the free transform tool, you can rotate. So I'm going to put my cursor in the corner. You notice my cursor's changed into that rounded arrow. If I click, you notice I can now rotate the sign. So if I wanted my detour sign to be slightly rotated, like an old country road detour sign might not be hung very well, I could do that. And there's that effect. I'm not going to actually apply that, so I'm going to undo. And what I want to do is it's going to be mounted properly, but I want to give it a little more perspective, like it's fading into the distance a little bit, and is sort of aligned with the road a little bit better. So to do that, I have to skew. Now skewing isn't a default option within the free transform tool. I can scale by grabbing the corners or the sides, or I can rotate by putting my cursor right outside the corner here and click and drag. If I want to skew, I go to the edit menu, and under transform there's a whole bunch of options here. Now I'm not going to go into warp and distort, but I will skew a little bit so you can see what that effect looks like. So now that I've switched to the skew effect, you'll notice I don't have the same rotate options, and I don't have the same arrows showing for scaling. If I grab a corner of my one of these anchor points you'll notice I'm just skewing that corner. I'm going to grab the bottom corner and do the same thing. So you'll notice I'm going to try to mimic the angle of the road so that the slope of my sign sort of matches the slope of the road, and it'll look a little bit more like it's right there on the side of the road. It's pretty good. And then I pinch this edge so it looks like it's fading into the distance a little bit more. So that's how you can scale, rotate, and skew a transformation. So I'm going to apply this transformation. Let's see how it looks. So I just select another tool, apply the transformation, and then let's go back to regular view, actual pixels. And that's not too bad. I mean, there's a lot of other things I could do to improve that sign. It's a little too perfect. It needs to have sort of a weathered look to it, put some distress on it, maybe a bit of a shadow so it looks like it's fading at an angle a bit more. But that's not bad for some basic transformations to fit my sign into my image a little more naturally than if I had just plopped it down in there. So hopefully you learned something in this video. See you in the next one.